Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Happy December 31st, 2023.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day. 123, 123. Is that cool or what?
I like it. I
That's
haven't even, I haven't even, I haven't even processed any of that stuff. It's so interesting. It's so interesting, the things that we notice.
and it's not going to happen again for another 100 years.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll be here at that time. I mean, it could happen, but I don't know.
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. I don't know. You think about that kind of stuff, and I used to think I want to be here for forever, but it's like no matter what, forever is not that long. Forever to us is such a different perspective.
Yeah.
It really is. So
Yeah.
how are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. Um, Getting ready to step into 2024. I just had a week-long vacation. I feel rejuvenated, recharged, and had time to regroup, which means I slept a lot, which was so enjoyable because I was at that point of almost reaching the point of burnout. And I don't want to get there because I will hit overwhelm. When I hit overwhelm, I shut down, which reduces the momentum, and then I got to get it going again. So I at this point of what is happening and what I got going on, the momentum has to continue. Like I got it. It's, keep it alive and keep it going and keep building upon it. And so that takes a lot of focus on my part, as it would for anybody who is moving in a direction that they desire. That, when we have those squirrel moments or those shutdown moments, that it slows that momentum down. So being very focused on mindset, emotions, and what I want to create into my life. So that's where I'm at as I end this year and step into 2024.
So it's almost like an example would be, and this is a very extreme example. If you ever watched Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, he would talk about the red zone for the dogs. Once I got to that red zone, it was too late, right? Once we get to that burnout, it's kind of too late. You got to have a rest. You really do. But if you can catch it before you get to that burnout, or before you get to that red zone, or before you get to the old patterns, it can change the whole momentum of everything. But it's like we're used to patterns, right? And I'm saying this because last night we're having conversations at home, and the conversations are, kind of along the lines of when you recognize that it's like everything's not about you, but a lot of times we put ourselves in it. Like if someone says something, oh God, did I do something wrong? And the conversations even around the house has been a lot of the stuff that I'll say is almost as if I'm still that person that's worried about how people are receiving me. So it's a pattern, right? It's that pattern. So if I can catch that pattern before I get into the red zone, before I get into the burnout, because that's the similar things happen to me too. We don't have to go down that path that far, but to me, it kind of lets us know that's how far we've gone down the path before it's gotten our attention. Like, wait, red flags are coming up. We're going to have to be taking an emergency rest stop over to the side here in a minute, or people are going to get hurt. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's kind of along those lines, but it's being aware of that stuff ahead of time. But again, the first part of this is being aware that this is what we do. This is our patterns. This is what our familiar zone is. Because it's like I was telling Freeman, I don't even notice when I've done that. I'm like, when was the last time that I was worried about what they thought? And he's like, you do it all the time.
Mm.
And it's like I didn't take offense to it because I'm listening, because I would prefer to not be in that space all the time. So then I have a partner that can tell me this is where I'm kind of hanging up a little bit. And it's up to me. I can either be triggered by it and get pissed off, and it's all about me, right? It's everything I've done. I'm doing everything wrong. It's the end of the world. And it's like, it's not that way. But in the past, that's how it's felt. So it's recognizing those things for myself. So I don't have to get to that point. I don't have to get to the red zone anymore. That's my hopeful. That's not my knowing right now, because I know that I'm still going through this process of even recognizing when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So it's just having that awareness of it. So it's again, it's fun. Like when we start recognizing these things, it's fun because guess what? We don't have to freaking keep doing the same thing again. I don't have to go skate on the freaking pond that I know that's got a weak spot in there, and I'm going to take a gamble. Hopefully, I can make it over this time. I can get all the stuff done at one time at the last minute before I burn out. You know what I mean? Or before I worry about everybody's worried about, I'm doing something wrong and they're gonna judge me, and it's gonna there's like so much to be worried about in that situation, but we don't recognize how much we're carrying with us even still. Everybody's been watching us. We've changed a lot. You could watch our videos from 3 years ago and we're totally different people from then. We really are. I'm not even the same energy that I was. I can't even fathom who that energy was anymore from where I'm at right now. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And I know how important it is first to have awareness. So, we talk about your body is your indicator. So if you're experiencing something, you're thinking about something, you're feeling something, you're witnessing something, you're engaged in something, and it doesn't feel good, your body tells you that. And that is being able to have awareness or hyper awareness of how you are feeling and recognize, am I willing? That's key word, right? Willing. Am I willing to do something different so I feel better, so I can raise my vibration, so I can be at a higher frequency, energetic frequency? Am I willing to do that? Because really, sometimes we just want to sit in the muck and guck and the anger and the hatred or the jealousy or whatever that might be. But also know that that's where your attention is. That's where your focus is. And that's what you're contributing to. And what, we know this, that what you project outward is what is going to be mirrored back to you or come back to you. And a lot of people use that word of karma. And I want to bring this up because 2024 is an 8 year. And the way you get that, it's 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4. So that equals 8. 8 is about giving and receiving. And so whatever you are giving, you are receiving, right? It's that energetic give and take and the energetic flow. So this also is some are referring to as a karmic year. So whatever you have been putting out, the 8 year is for that to start showing up back towards you. Now, I've been pretty diligent about being aware of what I am putting out. And have I always been great at it and perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I've been way better than I used to be. And that is awesome. That is a celebration. And I feel like anybody, like I had a coaching session with a lady, and typically when somebody shows up for coaching or a class, that they're in the depths, they don't feel good, they know they want to change something needs to be different. And so I said, okay, well, what did you get from your childhood? What things did you take on from your childhood and what you learned from the adults? Procrastination, people pleasing, and perfectionists. Okay, great. This is first acknowledging that. That's great. Awareness. And I celebrate that. I'm like, you got to celebrate that because first you need to acknowledge that. These are the things that I don't like about myself. I said, but in your childhood, you also learned a lot of valuable things. And what was that? And she named off like 8 different things that were valuable to her as an adult. And I said, we got to focus there. That is key. We turn our pain into purpose. We learn from it. We take the valuable pieces and we implement it. And your whole mindset changes. So like I can be calm during a crisis. How freaking amazing is that? Because how many people freak out during a crisis and panic, right? She says, I can read people really well. Awesome. Body language, facial expressions. I'm like, that is a valuable tool, right? And so we just went through each one. And so start focusing on the valuable skills and the qualities and the characteristics that you've developed because of your life experiences.
Yeah, not spending the time focusing on the things that didn't go right, which is what typically happens anyways. At the end of the day, most people aren't focused on all the great things that they did that day or how they showed up anyways, and just a million different ways. And I see that 8 year, to me, it's like we're always in that, if you want to call it karma, we're always in that ebb and flow, regardless of what year we're going into. It might be more
Amplified.
visible to people that aren't, used to seeing that kind of stuff. But to me, I feel like we're already aware of it. We've already been doing the stuff anyways. We're looking at all that stuff. It's not escaping us. To me, I mean, for me, I feel like this is going to be like the most amazing year ever. Of course, I think we said the same thing last year, and it's been an amazing year. I've had so many changes. I've just changed in so many ways that some of the feelings and emotions and triggers and a lot of different stuff, I've come to a neutrality with it. I'm just in a different space with it, and it's like it doesn't have anything to teach me anymore. And to me, karma is about teaching anyways. What is it? I can't remember who said it, but we came here to create. I don't know if it was Dolores Cannon or it might be numerous people, right? But they've talked about we came here to create. We came here to see what we could do with energy. And instead, most of us have became victims to that energy instead of recognizing how we do have this control. And it's so easy to say, well, if that's the way they trained us and that's what they wanted all along. But it's like, then we're saying that something that someone else values what they want is more important than our wants. So it's just recognizing those things too. And that's what I'm recognizing. It's so easy to go out and buy things for other people, but not doing something for yourself. That happens a lot. That for me, that's been like an ongoing thing. And then I recognize it even with my kids, how they'll sacrifice themselves so much for everybody else and then not take care of themselves. When really, what could change everything? Taking care of yourself. I mean, that's the one thing, right? Being aware of the thoughts that you're thinking, being aware that whatever you're thinking right now is what you're creating and what you're putting out. That's your karma. That's your, how you're showing up in the world. If I'm showing up in the world and I'm flipping everybody off on the road, then that's kind of how the world's going to show up to me. That's just the way it is. I mean, I could have a smile on my face and be sending out the power finger or whatever. I'm just sending out power. But, whatever I want to call it or whatever mood I'm in right now. And it's just to be an awareness of that, not to be a victim of it. It's not something we just take things too seriously.
Yeah. I'm also, I listened to Next Level Soul this morning. I'm only halfway through the video with Greg Braden. They just did another interview with Greg Braden, and it's super powerful. I'm going to share it in my Facebook group. But, they talk about things when things are good, or when things are easy, things are good. And it's just easy, right? We just float along and doing quite well. But when things are bad, and whatever definition you define that as when things are bad, who do you become? And I thought that was such a powerful question. So when we are perceiving, because nothing is good or bad, it just is. It's an experience. It's how we define it as individuals. And who do you become? So let's say just in your personal life, or as using my life as an example, when my husband's doing something and I am perceiving it as a negative or a bad thing, who do I become? I become frustrated and irritated, sometimes angry. I get wrapped up in my not good enough story. I start putting myself down. That's the person I become because of his behavior. Now, we know there are a couple wars going on, probably more than that we may not be aware of. So when you are listening to social media, or when you are watching the news, and we're going on a worldly basis, who do you become when you're taking in that information? So whatever is happening, my point is, and not that I want to go into worldly issues, but my point is how whatever person you become on a personal level, just based on your own life experiences and what you're moving through and how you're perceiving things, that is also going to pertain to you when you look at worldly stuff. And what is contributing to that is social media and the news. And we know that the news is only providing information to keep things in a dramatic sense, to draw us in, because we're programmed for that type of information. And social media is based on the algorithm of whatever you're taking in. So if you're giving attention to more positive things, you will get more of that in your feed. If you're giving attention to more chaos and drama, you will get more of that in your feed. And it's just going to be in your face all the time. Make sure you understand and have awareness of who you are becoming when you are taking that information in, because that is going to be your indicator of how you show up in this life, in this world, collective consciousness on an energetic basis. And how you show up is what you are contributing to collective consciousness. I thought that was such a powerful topic and explanation, because, you know, I mean, we've talked about this stuff in a sense, but, you know, when you hear it in different words, it's like this huge light bulb goes off. And I was like, wow. Now, one thing further is when you get wrapped up in the anger, and also let's just put it out there as well. This is for the United States, this is a political year. This is a year of voting for our president. And whatever you get wrapped up in. So if you are allowing yourself to have hatred, if you are allowing yourself to be fearful, if you're allowing yourself to be in that anger space, whatever you're allowing to come into you and create those emotions, those people or those situations have control over you. And you are not a logical thinker when you are in that space. You are disregarding your intuition. You're disregarding your spiritual connection. You're disregarding other points of view. You're disregarding the fact that you're not, when it comes to social media and the news, you are not getting all the information. You're getting it from one side, one perspective. So it's, to me, and we've been talking about this for quite a while, like since 2020, since we started this podcast, is use your body as your indicator and recognize, how do you feel when you're receiving that information? Because your body is going to let you know, are you being in a fearful space or a loving space? Are you seeing through eyes of compassion? Are you seeing through eyes of hatred? Right? So it's really time. I just really feel like coming into 2024, it is a time to step up your spiritual game and listen more to what your body is telling you, and your heart. Your heart is where, and that's one of the things they pointed out in this video, is your heart is where we get the information. Your like truth is through your heart space.
Yeah, and it just goes back to the same thing that we were already talking about. It's just simple as whatever you're focused on, you're feeding, that's what you're creating into your environment. Now, if you can have the news on and you're unaffected by it, good, you became neutral. You have nothing more to learn from it. So that's back to the karma thing, right? And if you want to focus, anything you're focusing on, it doesn't matter if it's what you perceive as good or bad, you're creating more of that in your experience. Just simply, like you just said, but it was just simply went along with exactly what we were already saying. That it's just whatever you're putting out there is what you're creating. Whatever you're thinking about, you're creating. Whatever you're listening to, if you're listening to it through an awareness and not being caught up in it, and you're neutral, great. Then you're still creating, because that's just going to fall away from your experience anyways. And then it's like back to, I can say it's back to paying attention to what's in the 3D versus what's in the 5D. Like what energy, where do you want to put your energy at? It's really that simple. It doesn't have to feel, because some of the conversation feels like it's kind of heavy. So it's like, to me, it's just, and that's a perspective, right? Just my perception on something of what we're talking about, but it's like, it's just simple. It's not getting wrapped up in it, and it's recognizing it's there for your experience. It's there for you to decide what you want more in your life of. And then for me, I want more happiness and joy into my life, and things don't have to be hard or easy, right? It can just be great, because guess what? I can navigate. I could be in my speedboat driving down, and it's like, ooh, I can see off in the distance there's a rock. I just know to go around that rock, right? It's not a big deal. It could have been hard, right? But it was easy. I just made a quick little adjustment and everything was great. And that's where our internal navigation shows us. And that's back to the heart area too, because that is our internal navigation. It's just being in those spaces and recognizing and not getting wrapped up in all the rest of the stuff. And like you said, going back to, as soon as you recognize that your body is going into that energy, or it's not feeling good, that's your gauge. Hey, wait a minute. Gosh, I'm not feeling good for some reason for a second there. I wonder what I could do different. I don't even have to know the answer to that. I can wonder what I could do differently. And it's like just being in that wonder, that open to receive, information starts to flow in, and I receive that information and know how to carry forward right from there. I was listening to, for whatever reason, QHHT has come back into my experience, which is a quantum healing hypnosis technique for, Dolores Cannon's technique that she has taught for, I don't know, years. I don't even remember what year, when she started doing it. I think it was in the 2000s. But it's listening to this conversation of this person having this conversation, and the higher self talking to her, or these 11 beings talking to her. They're like, well, she's not going to change anything. Well, how can she heal? Well, if she could stop complaining about things. So very simple, blunt, and in your face, right? But we don't recognize that. And we think that by complaining, because a lot of times we want to be heard and be seen with these words that we're saying, right? And I can even go back to, if I'm paying attention to my husband at the time, and he wasn't doing things that I thought he should be doing, because he would drink and stuff like that. It wasn't my appreciation, but I was judging. But it wasn't my appreciation. If I would have just recognized and then let that be his own space. But no, what did I do most of the time? As soon as I directed my attention to the situation, I'm now feeling the energies that he's feeling. Now, if I would have stopped for a second, I could have recognized, wait a minute, these feelings that I'm feeling are all his feelings that he feels, from my interpretation, through my filtration system, right? But it's something that they're experiencing. But instead, I'm in that space of that energy. I've dropped down into that same space, and now everything that he's offering up is just irritating more, and it's keeping me in that space. But I could have used that as a tool all along at that time to recognize, oh gosh, this is where he's coming from right now. This is how he feels. How fucked up to feel like you're that alone, and you're only in that space, and you don't have anyone else to rely on. You don't have the support system from his perspective. And I'm not saying that's how it was, but I will guarantee you, I think sometimes he felt that way. There's 100%, because sometimes I felt that way. So it's like, who was mirroring who? But it's recognizing as soon as we get into that space. And before I used to be like, ooh, don't get into that space. Don't dip down into their energy. Oh no, use that information that you have, not to use to hinder them or put them down, but to help uplift them, to help raise them up. So it's just a different perspective of looking at things. Because before, hey, when you're an empath and you're picking up stuff, you can feel like a victim. Really, really, it's so easy, because things can be heavy, but it's recognizing this is just a gift for me. I have a gift that I can look at this other person and recognize that they feel like they're not supported, recognize that they don't want to be here anymore, recognize that I could be offering them something different than what they're giving, and then I can help raise and lift them up. So it's all perspective. It's just however we want to look at things and how we want to perceive things. And if you think the world's against you, I used to think that way. Well, then the world's freaking against you, or you'll find more and more signs of how the world's against you. See, it just happened again. Did you see that? Because you're in that victim state, and you want someone else to be a witness of your victim state, so that you're not, hey, I'm not fucking crazy. Pay attention to what I'm saying. You know what I mean? This is really happening. And it doesn't have to be that way, because the truth doesn't have to argue for itself. It just is, right? So it's like, there was no reason for a lot of this stuff, but it was a way to keep myself in the same patterns, to help try to keep everybody else in the same patterns, because then I had someone to communicate with, so they might have an understanding of what I'm going through. And it's like, we don't need an understanding where we're going through at that time. I don't think that I did. I think I just needed to evolve, get up and look around, stand on top of the roof and look down at the situation from a different perspective, however you want to say it. But it's just realizing these ways that we keep ourselves kind of locked in to a certain pattern or behavior, and it's not necessary.
And I want to point out too that when those situations come up that seem like they're bad or negative, that it actually can give you an opportunity to focus, even have a even stronger focus on what you desire, right?
Yeah.
To go, oh, well, I definitely know I don't like what I'm seeing or hearing, and what do I want to focus on instead? How do I want to feel instead? And
Yep.
so keeping that in mind in conversations at work, conversations with your bestie, conversations with your family, again, social media, the news, if awareness, acknowledgement, focus, it comes down to that. And it's got to be the willingness to do it and practice it.
Yeah, because we can't put ourselves on a shelf in a corner anywhere anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's we've done that a lot. We've stood back because we didn't, and I say we, like I'm including you in it, and I don't know for sure if that's how you feel. So I would say I don't want to be put in the corner. I don't want to be put up on a shelf. I don't want, and it's not because I'm not saying that anyone else is doing it. I'm saying, hello, I've done that with myself. I've put myself to the back burner so that I could take care of everybody else, but it doesn't work that way because that was my old way of making things where I thought I was making things work with quotation air marks in the air there. But it's like it wasn't working for me, and I can continue repeating the same patterns and get the same results and be in a state of frustration. But why keep doing that? That reminds me of one of the Simpsons. Bart Simpson was working on something. The mouse, he had this like whole thing set up where the mouse would go through the thing. It learned after a couple times being shocked not to do something, and Bart would get shocked over and over and over again doing the same thing. It's like it's parallel to a lot of our experiences. If you want to take it a little bit lighter, the lighter side of things, but recognizing we don't have to be in that space, recognizing that, and it's like I was reminded over this weekend. Yeah, I said, you know, we all have God in us, so we're all God. We're aspects of God that came here to have this experience, and it's like some people look at that as blasphemy. And one of the girls in the group says, "Well, that's why they killed Jesus." And I'm like, because he was walking around saying that we all had God in us, but it's the truth. So it's the truth. It's my truth. It doesn't mean it's everybody's truth. So when I say it's the truth, that's my truth. That's what resonates with me. I have a faith and knowing in that it wasn't it. It was all perceived differently. It's almost like to make it a voodoo. Don't do this. You can't. You're idolizing. But I don't know. There's a whole lot of pattern you can go on to all that stuff. But it's just recognizing that it's not. It's not something I don't buy into anymore. That's not my story. I don't buy into that. I feel like when you walk in, if I'm sitting having this conversation with you, I'm having a conversation with God. It's the same thing. If I'm doing a massage, I'm doing a massage on God. We're working together right now. We are experiencing things together. This is an experience that we're going to take with us when we leave this physical body. These are the kind of experiences that we're going to reflect upon or we're going to see. And I want to show up that way. First part of my life, I didn't show up that way. Everybody was the enemy. It wasn't God. I'm just saying.
Devil.
And people would say, what about the person that's the killer? And what about this? Well, that's another aspect of God having an experience. You can't judge it. And so it's becoming neutral. It's not being in a space of right or wrong or black or white or the light or the dark. You know what I mean? The good or the bad, however you want to call it. It's all an experience. All of it's an experience. Some things I think go a little bit extreme, but that's just a perspective. And if I think it's extreme, then it'll be in my experience until I become neutral of it, because then I'll have nothing more to learn from it. I can check it off my list.
Right. Mark the box. When you talk about Bart Simpson and being shocked, there's a technique where people will wear a rubber band on their wrist, and every time they have a negative thought, they snap that rubber band. I have never done that technique. I feel like that's creating pain that I don't want. So first of all, I'm not going to consciously create some pain. So, but anyway, yes, that is a technique that has been taught, not by me. I'm just mentioning.
I've heard, I've heard about it, and not from you.
I'm like, no, we're not doing that. When you talk about being a part of God or source or whatever word term that people want to use. Love, you could use love. It's the highest
Joy.
frequency, right?
Yep.
Is it was explained by Dr. Wayne Dyer, is where I heard it from. And it made so much sense to me. He was explaining us being a spirit coming into this physical body, into this physical world. He said, and we came from somewhere, something. And so if you have an orange and you cut that orange and now you have a slice of orange and you have the rest of the orange, it's still all an orange. It's still the sliced piece is still a piece of the source it came from. So the whole of the orange, no different than a piece of pie. And so we are a piece of source in a physical body, having a human experience, just like you were talking about. And so we are love and joy. That has never wavered. It's always been in us. It's always been there. We have just created space between us and that love and joy that we are from our spirit, from our source. And it's closing that gap is the way he explained it, closing that gap. So coming closer to our essence of love and joy and living from that space, which again, coming back to me is the heart space. To me, when I talk about spirit, I always typically put my hand over my heart because that's the space I feel spirit comes from. And reminding me, right? You put your hand over your heart, it's just a reminder, like, this is love and this is who I am. This is my essence. This is what I came from. And it's up to me to make that stronger than the fear-based things that I've been focused on, bigger than the anger, bigger than the hatred, bigger than the jealousy, bigger than the guilt and the shame and the judgments and the criticisms. It's up to me to connect, to not connect, because the connection's never been disconnected in the human body. It's been clouded. It's been diminished based on the experiences that I've had in my life. But as I have done some emotional, mental healing, as I am moving forward and learning more about living from that space of my spiritual and my loving essence, the better my life has gotten and is getting. Like, this isn't the best of the best, but it's been the best of my lifetime so far. And I know it's going to keep getting better because I'm choosing to focus my time and energy there. That is my job. That's up to me. And nobody can do that for me. And that's what people want. They want the magic pill. They want it to happen right now. I just take the pain away. I don't want to look at the pain. And I just want to push it down, suppress it, gloss over it, not talk about it. And I want all the greatest things in the world. Well, that's great. And I think for sure you could have the greatest things in the world in spite of all this stuff that you've suppressed. But I don't feel like you would genuinely and truly be in the joy of that greatness because you still have that heavy energy within yourself. That's my perspective, and that's the way I see things and how we operate.
Gotcha. So, something I will go back to. You had told me a long time ago, teach what you want to learn, right? When you're learning stuff like that. And that's one thing that I've gone into, like I get a group that comes together and it's like, that's what I've been doing. It's like, I've been putting out channel writing. So now, well, I get to practice channel writing every other Saturday, right? I mean, I do it at home too, but I'm holding myself accountable. We're picking up, I brought in materials yesterday from my deceased loved ones for people to hold on to and to be able to figure out what information they would get from it. And every single one of them got information from it. And it's just, it's awesome, but it's like, it's just being in that space of the joy and the excitement. And to me, I feel like kind of like coming back onto the conversation that you were focused on. I feel like we do have a lot of heavy stuff on us, but we could look at all that stuff all the time and not have all the resolution, from my perspective, not have all the resolution. But if we are focused on those type of things our energy automatically shifts anyways. And I feel like a lot of those things will come to the surface and then it just kind of dust off by itself. Like you don't really have to even do much with it. And that's just what I've been noticing lately. But I just wanted to remind people, it's like when you want to learn something, start teaching other people about it, because that's how you learn about it. And then you get to watch other people, how their responses are. And I believe it's psychometry when you hold it in your, like I had learned a long time ago to pick up crystals from whoever ran the crystal stores, right? The new age stores. Oh, use your non-dominant hand for that. So there's been like guidance all along this journey of mine, whether I chose to take it or chose not to, right? Period. And all that guidance could have been beneficial along the way if I had chose to take it. But I'm learning now to have that awareness, like we're talking about today. It's really spending that time. And I think that's what, now if we kind of narrow that down, like going into this 8 year, it is to be aware of what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Not what is everybody else's feeling in the house. Not saying to ignore them, because that's how we get information, and we can help assist as needed, but usually let the person have, they got their own team that's guiding them along the way. So let them have their journey too, and not think that you have to run the show all the time, which I always thought I did. I thought I had to be the one to control and take care of everything in order for things to be right. And it's like, that's not even true. That was exhausting. So it's just recognizing all that stuff and just having more fun, having an awareness, but having more fun, not using the idea of the rubber band's not a bad idea to a sadistic person. No, just kidding. I don't know. But it's really what it boils down to is if you stop to even notice the thought that came into your mind, the snap isn't necessary.
Right.
That because the snap is like punishing yourself for
Right.
doing something wrong when you didn't do anything wrong, because right now you have an awareness. Is that wrong? No. You have an awareness of what you're doing. Is that wrong? No. So what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to shift it? So those are the things. It's not to punish ourselves in that space. But that's the old way, right? That's again, right then is to see, oh, this is a pattern. I feel like I have to be punished for something that I thought that I did wrong. Well, guess what? You're not doing anything wrong. You're having an experience. It's a human experience. And now you're dropping all the stuff, or you're recognizing all the stuff that you've carried all along that you've used as your compass. And it's not even an accurate compass. It's going to guide you into areas that are going to be like, why am I here? How come I didn't listen to the other voice that's been talking to me all the time and said, hey, turn this way or do this? Because we've ignored the voice so many times. And I'm going back to, God, we've had these conversations so many times, but going back to, the voice gets louder the more attention you pay to it. The more that it comes up, it's just like the child that comes up to you and it's pulling on your skirt or your shirt or whatever and wants your attention all the time. I could be the outsider watching this happening to someone else and watching this kid's doing it for 5 minutes. The parent doesn't even recognize any of it, because I've been that parent. I'm pretty positive of it. I'm sure I'll have it in my life review so I can kick my own ass later on. But but to see that, to be in that space, to recognize that you just ignored it so much that you didn't even notice it's even coming forward anymore. And for me, from my perspective and from my experience, I ignore it one time and it kind of hides back a little bit more. And it's not hiding. It's just I've ignored it. So it's like I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not paying attention to myself again. I'm not paying attention to that internal guidance. I'm not paying attention to, oh, did I want to be happy, but now I'm focused on everything else that's not happy? Okay. Okay, that's fine too. But I mean, it's just having the awareness of it, right? So this is I feel like a lot of work's been being done anyways. A lot of cleansing has been being done through this on this earth. There really has been. And we've all been doing a great job. And it's to stop for a second and just pat yourself on the back and know that you're doing a great job. And thank you for showing up. And thank you for being your true self in life when you show up with everybody else, instead of worrying about what everybody else thinks. And then in recognizing when people are showing up, like there's a couple of people that I've had in my experience probably in the last couple of weeks that don't keep their word. Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. And then it's like they're no show or doesn't, whatever. And it's not to be. At first, I was like kind of getting irritated by it, right? And it's not to be irritated by it. It's just not my stuff. And I had been that person once upon a time before. Oh, Amy, I'll be there. I'll be there. And then I wouldn't show up and it wasn't because I didn't want to show up because of you. It was because I couldn't show up because of me, because I was putting myself on the shelf or on the back burner or wherever else. And I didn't have any more to give. And that's okay. It's okay, because that's where I was at the time. But it's to recognize, it's just tools that I can recognize how far that I've came from that time frame to this time frame. And then I recognized the other day, because we were invited to go to a New Year's Eve thing. And I said, they asked if we were going to come. And I said, no, but thank you for inviting us. We decided we're just going to stay home. And then I thought afterwards, well, fuck, I didn't make up any excuses. I didn't say, hey, I'm not feeling good. Before, it would always have to be, I would have to, I probably would go out and stub my toe on purpose just so I did, you know what I mean? That's almost like I would have a good excuse. That was a good reason. Yeah. Oh, my throat's kind of a little bit. So I think I don't want to get anybody sick, whatever. The
Yeah.
bullshit stories that come forward, instead of just being like, I think I'm just going to stay home, and then honoring that.
Right.
So it's like I've had to go through, because I've had this awareness, I've had to go through my own process of, why do I feel this way? Well, of course, it goes back to the same thing, that I want everyone to like me, and I don't want anyone to judge me or think badly about me. But it's like, what about me? What do I want? And these are those opportunities to ask yourself, and then recognize when it's your mind, again, telling you the bullshit, or it's you're receiving the information. That little voice that you might have ignored. But as soon as it peeks its little head up again, and it does all day long, and as soon as you start to notice it, now you can start following that trail again.
Yeah.
Because this has been in my experience, that I've actually had this as an experience lately. So I'm recognizing stuff. And it kind of correlates with everything you said we're going into, like for the 8 years. So it's just part of the plan. It's part of where we're at.
Yeah. And also coming back to, this is a disclaimer I put, typically I say it on here at some point, not always, but during my classes and my coaching sessions, I will tell people, take what resonates with you right now. Whatever lights your fire, like lights up your heart and really resonates with you, gives you those goosebumps or God bumps, and you internalize it. Like Bev was saying earlier, she was speaking from her truth. Her and I have a lot of truths that are similar, and because it resonates with us. Now, in 5-10 years, next week, doesn't matter. Something might come along that might say, Amy, you might want to question this truth. And does this really ring true for you still? Like, those can change. So it's okay. And those, come to our belief systems, like our belief systems of things that we believe, those can change. And so can your truths, because what resonates as your truth right now is what you are in vibrational alignment with. You are able to hear it, you are able to internalize it, and you are able to implement it. Like, that becomes part of you. Now, later down the road, you might hear something else that resonates even more. It could add to what your truth already is, or it could replace what that truth was. So just being open to, how does this resonate with me right now? And sometimes what doesn't resonate right now shows up again. And then you're like, oh, now I get this. Now I feel like this is a truth for me.
Yep.
So it's being open. And as again, at 2024, an 8-year giving and receiving is about being open. Be open. And if you are somebody who desires goodness to flow to you, first of all, be in that space of amplifying goodness, your thoughts, words, and emotions, and be open to allowing that goodness to flow to you, because you are already worthy and deserving of it. So I just want to point out, what resonates with you is super vitally important, and it's what you can receive right now within you as your truth, and what feels good to you. The other thing I want to mention is, every spiritual teacher on this planet who is teaching, who has written a book, who has a podcast, we all have our pain. We have all had our pain. Okay, let me just say it again. We have all had our pain. Something in our life, in our younger days, happened that we perceived as bad, wrong, or painful, damaging, chaotic, drama, torture, whatever it was, however you define it. And we also learned to do a healing process around it. And it doesn't mean one thing worked. Like, I've been through many different processes that I had to implement. And it all contributed to the healing process, my mental and emotional healing, to be where I am today. And now, as a teacher and a coach, I turn my pain into purpose. And that's what all these teachers do. All these spiritual, if you want to call them gurus or leaders or influencers, we have turned our pain into purpose. But we also have done a lot of healing around that. And that's why, that's why Bev and I show up every week to do this, is because we've been through our pain. We've also been through some healing. And that's what we like to share with you, and be that example, be the mirror to you that you are seeking of life can be enjoyable. There is joy in this space, in this world. There is opportunity for goodness and greatness. And we are showing up to be that example, because 20, 30, 10 years ago, we weren't there. We were not there. Like, we were on the path to that. And again, are we perfect every day, every minute of this? No, we have our moments as well, but we also have more awareness of how we are feeling so that we can change it. There's been, in the past 60 days, there's been twice that I know of, that I remember, that I recall, that I have texted Bev and I said, I am struggling, send me some loving energy, hold the vision of, I'm filling the blank. I filled in the blank. So asking somebody, don't be in the depths of what I'm going through. Hold the vision of me on a higher energy vibration. Hold the vision of me seeing through the eyes of love. Hold the vision of me having a good day. I didn't call her and wallow and cry and all this stuff. Just send me some love. Hold the vision.
Yep. Didn't even explain what you were going through or anything like that. Didn't bring in all the muck. Yep. Right. It's just, and to me, it makes it easier, because as soon as you put it out there, like, hey, pray for me, send me some loving thoughts, you can now let go of it and go on your day, and things are just going to work out because you've let go of it. It helped you to let go.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
I have to tell you, that was not easy. It was not easy to not call somebody and say, oh my God, this happened. This is, this is what they did, blah, 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 tell me I'm right, be in my misery. That was, to me, that was a level up in my showed up. Now, did I tell her later of what happened? I did, because I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm also like, this is what I learned from it. This is I had of myself through it.
So you were presenting it differently, though. You weren't presenting it as the problem. You were just like, this is the experience that I had, basically, and sharing it. So to me, that's a positive. To me, that's a positive, because it's just another way of letting go. But whoever you're sharing with need to hear it too. That's the whole thing. We're having conversations last night, and I'm saying stuff, and I'm like, I'm telling this stuff to you for you, but this is really for me. This is spirit talking through me right now to myself. And it's like recognizing that, and that's, you learn to recognize that by just doing what you're saying. It's just paying attention. It's by showing up. You start recognizing how much help we have around us, that we're not alone to do this all by ourselves. And we have talked to each other about a lot of times, just for the different perspective. And even when I have anybody that comes into the office, it's the same thing. It's an opportunity to present something forward and someone else to give a different perspective. I've learned so many different perspectives on things, and it's like, oh, wow, this is so super cool. It really is, because it's like that. I would never have thought that. And there's been a lot of things that you've told me that's like, oh, I wouldn't have seen it that way. And that's why we would have the conversation. Of course, that's why we're having it, because we know that the other one could see it differently, can see it with a little bit more purpose behind it, or something that we could learn from it, or really what it looked like, because it's just, sometimes it's just easier. I'm sure everybody's had the experience when you're giving out advice. It's, instead of us dealing with our own shit, it's so easy to look at someone else and be like, well, if you just do this, and then recognize, of course, that information was for yourself, as well. But if you would just do this, everything would be fine. If you would just quit focusing on that, you're just focusing, like you said earlier, talking to the person, focus on the things that were good. Like, what did you do today? When you go to sleep at night, thinking about your day, and like look at all the stuff that I accomplished. And it's like, I've been off this whole week too. I've taken the week off and I've gotten a lot of, I don't have the house spotless, but that'll be today because I like to have it done before
Yeah.
the new year, before going into the new year. But it's like I've done a lot of paperwork. I've done a lot of stuff that I don't normally have done already. Tax stuff is organized. Like I'm on the ball this year, but because it's not because I put it on a list to do it. It's just I feel motivated to do these things. I went down yesterday or the day before and with shovels and some rakes and stuff like that to go fix a spot on the road that so I don't have to go meet the kids every time so they can actually drive out to the house. So it's like it's something I kept talking about doing, but it's like I never found time to do it. And I just didn't do it. So it's like doing all those things and it's like a lot of weight. I'm completing a lot of stuff this year. And I think if I remember correctly, I'm in a 9 year this year going into a new beginnings. You're going into it too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and shit, my God, the numbers that have been showing up for me lately are almost like I'm having to go look it up right now because even though I've looked up the numbers so many freaking times,
Yep.
there's still now these things are resonating with me a little bit differently. Now the message is a little bit different. It may be the same numbers, but now the messages are different.
Yep.
And it gives me goosebumps, but it's like I find it interesting because we're in different spaces. That's why the information is different. That's why when we start going through all this stuff, this awakening, for me, I tell everybody, to me, my perspective, awakening is as soon as you realize there's more to this, you're awakened. You may not be fully awakened to where you think you should be, but you're already awakened. It's just like you said, trying to be in connection with our higher self. The connection never stopped. It's always been there. It has always been there. But what have you been directing your attention to? Who's been giving you the advice? Is the advice coming from the TV? Is it coming from your friend? Or is it coming from this internal guidance inside? It's like we're just saying the same things a million different ways.
Yeah.
Just to reach one person. If it just reaches one person, that makes their life a little bit easier. Because guess what? My life is easier.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you, watch the first. I won't watch the first video. I don't need that energy in my life. No, but go watch the first interview, and I can guarantee you that I'm just more. I'm more better. No, I'm not in that aspect, but I can laugh easier at stuff. I don't take things so seriously. I ponder things. I've learned to have boundaries. It's okay to say no. And I've also learned even this past weekend, it's okay for someone else to tell me no. And I didn't get, my feathers didn't get ruffled or anything like that. I was like, that's super cool. But I'm curious, why did you say no? Like, what was the reason behind it? Do I have to know the reason? No, but curiosity. I was just curious. And if it ever came up, then it would have, but and it kind of did. It was like afterwards, she says, it was so awesome to be in a space that I wasn't going to be judged and I could say no. She said, because it wasn't resonating with me. And I said, that is awesome. Thank you for showing up and saying no, because you're now an example for everybody else to show up and say no too. They don't have to do it just because everybody else is doing it.
Right. That's
Which it makes us all different anyways, because we're coming together with these different people and not carrying things. And I'm so amazed at people that I have not even met that have heard about me from someone else just during a conversation for massage. And like, I'll be talking to them. It's like, oh, you should come to group. And then they show up and I'm like, yeah, now I see why you came to group. Because then they're like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for a soul family. And I finally found my soul family, just because people like to have like-minded people to talk to. It's really not that different from the person that's complaining about their problems and having like-minded people to talk to, right? But we've just changed the perspective of what like-minded people we want in our experience.
Right. And I want to come back to what you said. Like we say this almost every week. We talk about the same things almost every week in different verbiage, different language, different ways, and different examples. But here's the thing. First of all, she already said it. We show up for us. Bev and
Yes.
I come and have these conversations as reminders for us.
Yes.
We come and talk about how far we've come, what we've experienced, how we moved through it, what we learned about ourselves. We are talking from experience. We're not bringing out, bullshit made up stories. We have not done that since day one. We've talked about things we've learned from other teachers and podcasters. And we bring that information because it resonates with us and we know it's beneficial. But we also are saying these things over and over and over because it is a huge reminder for ourselves. First and foremost, we are reminding each other. We're showing up for each other to say, Well, if you just be aware of what you're focused on. And if I have to hear that every day, every week, then I need to do that, right? Until
Yeah,
I start,
it's better than the rubber bands.
right? And so maybe you've been following us for 3.5 years since since we started this podcast. Maybe you just started, but every time you hear it, it is a reminder. If you are stepping onto this path with us, and this is the first video you've listened to, the first recording you've listened to, we are showing up as an example, as a mirror, as possibility, as encouragement, as empowerment. And if it resonates with you, you will continue to listen either to us or somebody else who is on the same path, similar path, not same path, but similar path. Those people will start showing up for you if you are open to receive it. And if you're hearing this, if you're hearing similar information every week from us, you're like, oh my God, they just said that last week. Oh my God, they've been saying that for 6 months. No, we've been saying it for 3.5 years. Just
Yeah,
to be
trigger.
right. It's because it's a reminder. It's not that we have nothing else to talk about. It's because it's a reminder, because we need reminded.
Yeah.
It is something new that you're interested in implementing. You know it feels good to do it, but maybe you're just not there yet. You're like, yeah, it sounds great, it resonates, but I just can't cross that line and start doing it yet. Well, no worries. We're going to show up next week and we're going to say the same damn thing. And when it
And why?
resonates, right? When
Yeah, because we need to hear it too. That's why. It's no different from talking to a friend. You know what I mean? Even us having these conversations, it's the same thing. It's just a constant. It's like you said, it's for us. When I show up for group, I mean, before I used to think it was me doing it for everybody else. It's for me. Honestly, it's for me. But there's a benefit that comes to everybody else. And then we get to share it. So it's no longer just for me. But for me, I can go in and play. I can, try different things. And it's like I brought the stuff in because Spirit told me about it at like 6 o'clock in the morning yesterday. Like, go in there and grab some of the stuff. I've got 3 people that have transitioned. Go grab some stuff. Bring it in. And then I show up there and one of the girls, she's like, oh, she says, well, I brought this in. This was from my son's vehicle that he got into the accident with. So she ended up letting me hold it, right? And I'm holding this. So here I am. And I'm like, I'm not getting shit I'm not getting anything. And then all of a sudden I see the vehicle flipping, rolling. And I don't know that it had rolled, but it's like I told her, you've told me some stuff. So I don't know what my mind has retained, but I can just tell you what I just saw. And so it was awesome, not planned out, no conversations. And she just happened to have something in her purse that she carries with her. So I had something to be able to try to practice with too, and to hold on to. And I told her what I just wrote down, everything that I saw, whether it was some people in the group just wrote down words. And also the other thing that was, and it wasn't right or wrong, right? So each person there's a couple people that had 3 people, I think, that had something of Jim's, glasses, a ring, there was something else. Someone had my mom's ring. And it was interesting how it showed up because now we're going through their filtration system, right? Their experiences. I'm picking up like a grandfather type of person, and I'm picking up just very loving and all these other things. Well, yes, he was a grandfather, not to me, but so if I wanted to say it was all about me, but it was just the message they were bringing through. Another one says, like, an amazing brother. They're not wrong. He was a brother, right? But also at the same point, there was a lot of times that we had that kind of connection as well with each other when I wasn't focused on everything that was I perceived as wrong, right, or bad. So it's just fascinating when you're going through this life experience, how much there is to learn and how fun it is. That's exciting. I didn't have a teacher, in the room with a freaking ruler. Like, if I said the wrong thing, they're going to smack my hands, or they're going to throw a set of keys at me, or throw me into a closet. These are Jim's experiences actually going through Catholic school, but having those experiences. So just saying that out loud, just like, be open, don't be so, because before I used to be so shut off, and that would be the best way to say it. I was so shut off. And when someone would say something, we'd like, nope, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. But it's like, it was all right. Every single word was right. I just had to listen to it from a bigger perspective, not from a husband perspective, but from a brother perspective, from a grandfather perspective, from a very loving, nurturing person perspective, because he was. He
Yeah.
was all those things and so much more, right? But it's like it's just, and how do you know that when we have our awareness of ourselves, we can have such a bigger awareness of everything else. It
Yeah.
just opens up the world to everything, the possibilities.
Yeah. And I had a thought yesterday that, you mentioned, I mentioned, we both mentioned that we do this for us. Group is selfishly for you. My classes and coaching is selfishly for me. However, I had a class yesterday and there were 3 students. And when I left, well, then right after that, I had a coaching session. So that was 4 people. And I thought, what an amazing day that I got to affect the lives of 4 people in a positive way, right? Give them different perspectives, help them see life differently, help them um, transform what they were focused on, right? So I was just having this great moment of feeling good about touching these lives. But then I went, you know what? I didn't just touch 4 lives yesterday. I have no idea. I can't even fathom how many lives I actually touched yesterday through those 4 people, because it's going to affect their home life. It's going to affect their work environment. It's going to affect their relationships. It's going to affect themselves with themselves. Like I can't even imagine. And it's so, I mean, it just puts a smile on my face to realize I've probably affected hundreds of people through 4. And how incredible is that? And my
And
own life,
I was going to say, and let's not forget you, because I wrote it on here too.
and my
You,
own life,
you
because
helped yourself see things differently. I mean, even still when you're doing, that's why that's service, right?
yes,
Being in service of that and how much you're honoring self
yes.
and nurturing self.
So when we're having these conversations, when one person watches an episode or listens to an episode, it has an effect outward. It's going to affect so many more people than just that one person. So, we're coming to the conclusion of this pod. We've gone over our hour, which is okay. I'm excited about that because we're having a great conversation. It's been very good. Like have felt very up about it, and it's just been an amazing conversation as we come to this last day of December 31st, 2023, and we're stepping into 2024. That this podcast alone, I would say listen to it 25, 50 times. Just put it on repeat, just keep listening to it, because there's so much information in it to help you as you move into the energy of the next year. And the idea is to allow yourself to receive the information, take what resonates, and implement. I always say that is the key piece to anything that you're learning, is to implement it, put it into practice. And it's going to be a practice because it's something new. We got to practice and practice and practice so it becomes a part of us, because it becomes a habit. It becomes natural. It's no different than learning to crawl or walk or run or ride a bike or skate. We had to practice. We fell down a lot. We probably bumped our head, thankful for diapers because our butts would have been super sore, right? So practice and practice and practice. And it's okay if you falter. It's okay if you're like, oh man, I messed that up. I was doing so. It's okay, because that's just an indicator of what you don't like. If you know you don't like it, now you are even more aware and more inclined to practice and be even more focused on it. And it's 11:11 on my clock. I'm just saying that's awesome, because I love that. So excited.
Me too.
And yeah, the numbers have been popping up like 222, 555. I'm just like, those two have been very frequent. I'm like
1111, the 4 4s, 555. Wasn't typically a thing, but it has been showing up like that. So 333s are typical, but it's like it has been more of the 222s, the 444s, the 1111s, right? There's been a lot of things that have been so frequent, so frequent.
Yeah.
It's just, but like I said, you can become numb to that by you because you've seen it so many times. But I've recognized that no, there's another message for me to get from it that I haven't gotten so far.
Right. Yep. So anyway, my friends, we truly, I can speak from both of us. We are truly grateful for you for being with us, for watching, listening, sharing. Don't keep us a secret. There are people out there that want this information too. So please share the content, whether it's sharing the videos, the recordings, or talking about the information. Because the more you're focused on it and talking about it, the more it's going to show up, and then you're going to learn more. And it's the momentum of it. So just be aware of where you want your attention focused, especially moving into this new year. So with that, do you have any final words, sister?
No, make a magnificent year. I feel like it's going to be super exciting. It's going to be as exciting as we'll allow it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Could be exciting, adventurous, prosperous, joyful.
Yeah.
It's going to be what you make of it. It really is.
100%. I want all those things. Yep. Check.
I know, me too. Like I mean, since we've come back from vacation, I know my energy is completely different, and I have been feeling it all week. And I'm just like, it feels good. It feels good. And I feel good about moving into this new year. And I'm excited about what's coming. I just am. I'm excited about how I'm going to level up, what I'm going to learn, what I get to teach. I mean, it's just super exciting.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Hey. All right, my friends. We'll see you next year. So make it as amazing as you want it to be. And that's up to you.
That's right.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you in the flip side.
Happy New Year.